So let's talk about Black Velvet Distillery. This is a distillery in Alberta. It's another Alberta distillery in Lethbridge. And this distillery was founded in 1973. It really is built around the Black Velvet brand. So you have pretty decent production capacity, about 18.5 million liters per year. You're looking at 400,000 barrels. Decent sized distillery, owned by Heaven Hill, which is the second biggest bourbon distillery in Kentucky, and it's all about Black Velvet. Black Velvet, really popular brand in the States. It has a pretty long heritage. Not one that I'd really recommend unless you want an example of a whiskey that I wouldn't recommend. It is quite popular. It sells a lot. They used to have to make some other brands as well, which were quite good. They used to have a Danfield brand. They had a 10-year-old, and then they also had a 21-year-old, which cost about $40 before it was discontinued, which was very nice. It was one of my favorite Canadian whiskeys for some time. And right now they do have a few other Black Velvet whiskeys. There's a Black Velvet Reserve that's 8 years old. It's not great either. There's a 12-year-old, a Black Velvet Onyx 12, which is okay. So that's kind of the ones you can sort of find. That's kind of the one I'd recommend you try if you can find it. I've heard rumored that there's some older Black Velvet whiskeys in Europe, but really age is your friend with Black Velvet. So kind of an interesting distillery from that perspective, in that it's built around one brand largely, kind of like Canadian Mist in Ontario, but there isn't really a premium brand version that's accessible. In terms of kind of what they make, so they make a base corn whiskey, and then they make a flavoring rye whiskey, which has 10% malted barley included. They do something pretty interesting at the distillery they call it a blended at birth process, which is where they're flavoring rye whiskey. They actually age for 2 to 6 years before blending in to a barrel with corn base whiskey right off the still. So you're starting off with these casks of whiskey where the rye is 2 to 6 years older than the corn. So pretty interesting from that perspective. But beyond that, as with any distillery you want to learn more about, I recommend Davin's book, Canadian Whiskey. There's some more detail in there. I don't know a lot more than this about Black Velvet, other than what Davin would tell me in his book. But yeah, it's another distillery. It's not open for tours. Pretty industrial in terms of approach. So they do make some good whiskey there. We don't see much of it, but the old Danfields were really good. So my favorite thing that I've tasted from the distillery has been Danfield's 21, which was discontinued 2013, 2014, or sometime around that time. So in the next video I will taste Danfield's, the 21-year-old, and it's a good one.